If you didn't know anything about the situation, you would have thought Malachi Moore is some big-time criminal the way people have been talking about him the past 36 to 48 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope you're having a great start to your week. Hope you're having a great Monday. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. And man, oh man, we got a very sticky and messy situation on our hands. We're not doing no intro, none of that. This topic is so important. It is the one and only thing we're going to be talking about. So you better strap in, buckle up, get your popcorn, get your snack right now, because we're getting straight into it. This most recent weekend, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. And no, I'm not here to break down and talk about that game. But, and I have a really big, ginormous but, you better believe this, I'm here to talk about something that happened during that game that has been trending all over social media. After Alabama scored a touchdown to cut it 40-35, Alabama's defense had a chance with timeouts to stop Vanderbilt and get the ball back. As many of you probably saw, Alabama's defense, they couldn't stop Vanderbilt on that final drive, and they couldn't stop them all day. But on that last drive, one of Alabama's best players and team captains, let me repeat that, a team captain, he went a little berserk. He went a little wild. Although you couldn't hear him on TV, he's throwing his hands up, screaming. He even kicked the football. He was going crazy. It was clear and evident. He was upset. Rightfully so. You just lost to Vandy. And let's just call it for what it is. If you saw what transpired, I'm sure many of you did if you're watching this video, Malachi Moore threw a temper tantrum. He was going crazy, and he received a lot, and I mean a lot of backlash on social media. Everybody was holding him to the fire, but before we go any farther, let me give you my thoughts when I was watching it. Did I like to see Malachi Moore act that way on the football field? Absolutely not, and neither does he. I guarantee you when he was watching it back, he was ashamed and he was embarrassed. It wasn't a good look. Enough said. However, I understand it. And that's why up until this point, I haven't even addressed what Malachi Moore did. I don't know if some people have never played a competitive sport in their life, but what Malachi Moore did, that's passion. Was it too much? Yes, 100% absolutely. Especially on that one tackle where he shoved the dude's face mask in the ground, that was too much. But what I'm referencing and referring to is just everything combined, and when he was kicking the ball and just screaming at his players and throwing his hands up in the air. He's a very passionate guy, passionate football player at that, who loves Alabama, gives this university and football program everything he has, and he let his emotions get the best of him. That's how I viewed it. And maybe since I'm a former athlete, I can relate to him a little bit more and I have a little bit more empathy. And look, here's the bottom line. You show me somebody who's okay with losing, and I'll show you a loser. Let me say that one more time. I think you heard me, but you didn't hear me. Show me somebody who's okay with losing, and I'll show you a loser. Him shoving that one guy's helmet in the ground, unacceptable. There's no excuse. But as far as it goes for everything else he did, kicking the ball, throwing his hands up in the air, throwing his hands, punching his fist, look, it didn't bother me. But it bothered a lot of other people, and here's the first thing I thought of. People are being hypocrites. The reason I'm calling these people hypocrites, because if Malachi Moore did this same act, this same quote-unquote hissy fit, when Alabama was up by 30 against Vandy, or Alabama was dominating a team, everybody point to him and go, oh yeah, that's what a real leader does, holds his team accountable. But since he did it in a losing effort, it's, oh yeah, it's a hissy fit and temper tantrum and so on and so on. And another thing I don't understand is we've seen Nick Saban throw these same tantrums on the sidelines before. And there's this false narrative going around of people saying, oh, if Saban was the coach, that would have never happened. Buddy, that happened during the Saban era too. In the national championship game against Georgia, this is one example that sticks out to me, just came to my mind. We had two guys on the team fighting each other. The game against USC years and years ago, same thing. We had two guys getting an argument and scuffle on our own sideline. Then you had the infamous one in the championship game when we're beating the crap out of Notre Dame, and Barrett Jones and A.J. McCarron, they get into it. A.J. McCarron's telling them to snap the ball, and Barrett Jones just shoves them. Y'all acting like Saban didn't throw some crazy tantrums himself. Granted, it was towards his own players, but you get my point. And I understand some of y'all say, well, Matt, you got to lose at class, and I agree. I'm getting a little carried away. This situation escalated so much that Malachi Moore had to make a public statement about it. Here's what he recently wrote. This was only a few hours ago. And by the way, he turned off his comments on Twitter and Instagram. That's how much hate he has been receiving. I want to apologize to my teammates, our coaches, the fans, our alumni, and my family for the way I acted on Saturday. I was completely out of line. I let the emotions of the game get the best of me and put myself before the team. As a two-time captain and fifth-year player, I understand the standard that we are expected to live up to at Alabama, and I failed to do so by acting in a selfish and unacceptable manner. I came back this season to represent myself, this team, and this university because it means something to me. I am blessed to be able to wear that A on my chest, and I know all that comes with the responsibility of representing this program. I will do better to uphold the Alabama standard moving forward, and I will continue to work and improve while conducting myself in a first-class manner. That's about as good as you can do it, and hold on. Clap it up to Malachi Moore. Great response, great rebuttal. Society has gotten so soft, they really forced this apology out of him. I really didn't need to see this to feel good about the situation or Malachi or anything. I know the type of guy Malachi Moore is. He's just a passionate football player. That's all it was. Yeah, he freaked out, and I can't emphasize this enough, but all it was is passion. Here's a quote from the GOAT himself, Nick Saban. Passion looks like aggression to the weak. So maybe some of y'all that are freaking out about what Malachi Moore did, you're the weak. If you're one of these Weenie Hut Juniors talking about Malachi Moore needs to give up his captain patch, he's not a good look for Alabama, I guarantee you never played a competitive sport in your life. I'm not saying I like what he did. I started the video by saying, yeah, I didn't like to see that from him. But if you can't understand his frustration, I'm going to say this again, I highly doubt you played a competitive sport in your life. When you get out there on that football field, the baseball field, the basketball court, whatever sport you play, you make decisions that you normally wouldn't make. You react off of emotion sometimes. I'm not trying to reminisce on the glory days or anything like that because this video is not about me. But there's multiple things I did when I was playing sports that I'm not proud of. And speaking of this situation, I don't even know why I didn't just bring this up, but I just thought about it. Y'all saw my live reaction to the game, right? Do you really think I'm proud of shoving over the whiteboard and throwing it? No. It happened. It is what it is. I can't change it. That was my live and raw reaction. But even as a fan, I was passionate in the game and I got caught up in the emotions. I couldn't imagine being out there on the field. I don't want to be known as a guy who's chucking his whiteboard through the drywall when his favorite team loses. And here's the last thing I'm going to say before we end out this video. Especially if you're an Alabama fan and you're one of these people throwing Malachi Moore to the fire, just root for a different team. This team ain't for you. And actually, you could argue and say you're kind of happy that Malachi Moore did what he did outside of shoving the dude's helmet in the ground, because he's the only guy that showed passion and acted like he cared out there. If you have any competitive bone in your body, you do not think this is a big deal. On the contrary, if you're a nerd, you do think it's a big deal and you think he should be kicked off of the team or suspended. And that was a crazy thing too. Let's get into that. There were people asking Kalen DeBoer if he's going to suspend him. If you didn't know anything about the situation, you would have thought Malachi Moore is some big-time criminal the way people have been talking about him the past 36 to 48 hours. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. How about this? Eat your cheesy puffs and eat your Domino's pepperoni thin crust pizza and shut up, nerd. I almost forgot to talk about this. So former Alabama running back, and this was, in my humble opinion, one of the most underrated running backs in Alabama history. Really love this guy. Love everything he's about. Damian Harris said, and I quote, and he's talking to Malachi Moore here, "What you did on that field was complete and utter bull," and I'll censor this, crap. Am I mad at Damian Harris for stating that? No, because he played for the GOAT, he played for Saban, and he knew what those teams were about and what they were like. It's an interesting debate and argument, and I'm just extremely curious. I want to know what you guys think about all this down below. I think it depends on the type of person you are and your demeanor as to how you're going to assess the situation. If you're a person who's passionate and you have a lot of fire burning inside you, you're probably going to relate to Malachi Moore and you may overlook it. On the flip side, if you're a guy like Damian Harris, who was always a super humble dude, really, now that I think about it, did he ever celebrate a touchdown? I don't think so. It's interesting, but I think the vast majority of former Alabama players, they're willing to overlook this, so I think the fans should as well. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below about that.